Hello, welcome to ELB's Flexible Learning. Here in just a few minutes, we will get started and we will go through what flexible learning is, what flexible learning spaces look like, and we can also take any questions at that time. So we actually start in about 3 minutes. So for now, if you have any questions, feel free to type some in the chat box and we can get going there. All right. I see somebody is from Florida. Hi, it's nice to see you. Today, we are going to be talking about flexible learning. Flexible learning is one of those hot topics that a lot of educators are talking about, and it's a huge trend that we are also seeing in the classrooms. To start off with, we are ELB Education. If you want to send out a tweet to me or have a question, I am at Kate_ELB, or you can also follow us on Instagram at Prowise USA. To start with, today's objectives, just like any good lesson, teachers, we all know you need to have objectives so you know where you're going and what route you're going to be taking to get there. Today, we are going to start off by defining what are flexible spaces and what is flexible learning. We would like to discuss trends and the kind of the why factor behind this. So many times we, especially our school districts, will give us something new that they want us to do, but we don't have that why explained. Many of us may have kids and you're constantly being asked, but why? We too need to know the why behind this pedagogy. And lastly, we will demonstrate within Presenter how Presenter can be used for flexible learning as well. All right, let's start off by defining flexible learning spaces. Flexible learning spaces have many different faces. They are areas or spaces where students can sit. They're not the typical chairs and tables and rows and the sage on the stage kind of deal. I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about the way that you're sitting right now as you're viewing this video, this live session. So, are you sitting on your sofa? Are you sitting crisscross applesauce? Are you sitting on your floor and using your coffee table maybe as your desk? Are you laying on your stomach watching this? Are you sitting at your school desk with a straight back watching this? The way that you're watching this is probably the way that you are the most comfortable. And if you're going to do something and you're going to sit down and really put time into it, you want to make sure that you're in a comfortable space. So, why aren't we making our classrooms a comfortable space for our students? The other day, I walked into a classroom and there was a student underneath his desk, almost cradling the leg of the desk, writing on a piece of paper. He wasn't distracting anyone in his group. In fact, it seemed like nobody even realized he was there. And he was doing his work. He found his own flexible learning space. So you don't have to go out and buy fancy furniture, although we do have some fancy furniture. There are tons out there on the market. I have posted some pictures here from Norva Nivel, which is a furniture company who specializes in flexible learning spaces. If you take a look, I have a picture here in the upper right-hand corner of it. Just looks like a square, just a regular box. The students can sit on that. They can kneel on the floor and put their Chromebook or their iPad or their personal device up there and work on that. You look at the picture right below it on the right-hand side, and now they've taken the top of that box, what we thought was the top, and they've stuck it in a little crevice on the side, on the back side, and now it is a back support. So maybe you're somebody who really needs that back support while you are learning or while you are working on something. On the left-hand side, we have a desk with a a dry erase top to it and 4 little stools all around it. Here, these students can sit on the stools, they can flip them onto the side and rock back and forth. I did a presentation with one of the owners of Norva Nivel, and she said something to me that really caught my attention. She said, "An active body is an active mind." And I think back to when I was teaching and I had those students who would sometimes just kind of daydream off. And you knew they were daydreaming off because their eyes weren't blinking. Their whole body was just kind of off in their own world. Well, if they maybe were a little bit more engaged physically, maybe they would have been more engaged within that lesson at that time. So think about how your students learn. Think about how you like to learn. How are you comfortable? How do you sit and position yourself when you know you've got a large task at hand? And think about your students. Not all students are going to want to sit in a row, in a chair, in a hard chair, and sit at a desk. So we need to figure that out, and we need to make those spaces flexible. They can go from an individual working space and then come join into a small group, and then maybe they all come together as a whole group. So flexible learning spaces. Flexible learning. Apples and oranges. We're used to hearing that. No two students learn alike. They're like snowflakes. No two snowflakes are alike, and neither are students. Each student has a different way of learning, and we need to make sure as educators that we meet those needs of those students. We want to make sure that our lessons are approaching the student in the way in which that they will learn the best. So we're used to hearing differentiation, or how do you differentiate in your classroom? We do this on a normal basis. Teachers do this without even thinking about it, as it's second nature. Flexible learning, as this definition sees here, is breaking it apart. So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into this flexible learning. Flexible learning in the classroom, what does it look like? We're used to saying, okay, students, where do you want to sit? Well, it's not so much where do you want to sit, because half the time you'll have students who want to sit on the roof of the building. I saw a principal do that one time for a fundraiser. It looked fun. I think I'd give it a shot. That's where I'd want to sit. No, better yet, how do you best learn? And that's how I started off this presentation. How do you best learn? How do you best sit down to listen to a presentation? Or if you've got a big task at hand, where do you sit? I personally started off with a standing table, and if I have a huge task ahead of me, I like to sit down in my chair, sit crisscross applesauce, and just hammer out that work. think about those students. Here, just like with flexible learning and seating, we have whole group. As you can see, these desks, we can start off as a whole group here, or maybe break it off in a little bit. Or maybe these were all like smaller groups and we brought them all together. You want to make sure that the furniture in your classroom for flexible learning is going to be um, easy enough and light enough that the students can pick it up and move it and transition with just flawlessly. Nobody wants to hear that on the floor of the classroom. So make sure that your furniture is lightweight. So we have whole group here, which we'll dive into in just a moment. We have individual. If you've not yet seen these rockers are absolutely amazing for the classroom. There are 9 different ways that you can use them. As I mentioned earlier, you can use it as an ottoman even. You can use it as a kind of a shorter stool. Students can kneel on the floor and put their Chromebooks, as seen in this picture up there. They can flip it on the side and rock back and forth. Just goes on and on. Again, how do you best learn? Then we have small group. Small group interaction is very important with students as well, but you want to make sure that all students who are involved have a say and are involved and active and are still in a position in which they will learn the best. I'm going to start off with whole group, as flexible learning needs to address each of these. So let's start with whole group. What would whole group look like in the classroom? Well, whole group is an opportunity for students to all come together and share the knowledge that they've learned. That's the way I like to think of whole group. A lot of times we think of whole group being maybe like a sage on the stage. I said that earlier, where the teacher's up there doing most of the lecturing. That is one way that we could utilize whole group. But another way is whole group is allowing the students to build upon each other. They've just had maybe some breakout sessions, some center time to learn and work on this concept. And now they've all come together and now they are all teaching each other by answering questions. They're all teaching each other what they've learned and tips and tricks that they can share with their fellow students or their fellow peers. So whole group. The Prowise panel, if you take a look here, the Prowise panel is perfect for these flexible learning spaces. And I say that because if you take a look, even in this picture, our panels are on wheels, but they're also a small footprint. So if the teacher needed to scoot this through because it's in the middle of a transition, you can scoot that through and put it over here, the piece of technology over here, while these groups start to break up and go around the classroom. That works as well. So you want to make sure if you're using technology in the classroom, that your technology is also flexible. All right, let's come over here to small group. As I said, small group is super important. We want to make sure that all students are engaged. We want to make sure that all students have their own space as well. I can remember a time when I was given a tablet, one tablet for a center of, I think there were 4 students in this one center with one tablet. You can imagine how well that did not go. The students need to have their own space. If you want them to be working on one tablet, break it up into jobs maybe. So let's take a look at what small group in a flexible learning style classroom would look like. Here we have a cloud table that you can tell is a dry erase. And I have a piece of technology on that table with the Pythagorean theory, excuse me. And now the students can work on this. If I were sitting on the end of the table down here, I could be working on this side. Somebody else could be working on the other side. We could all be collaborating. Small group collaboration. They need to be working together. Now, when you're thinking about flexible learning and you're thinking about your students and thinking how they best learn, a lot of times, if we go back to that, where do you want to sit? Well, of course, I want to sit by my best friend. I haven't seen her in like 8 hours. Well, that's great. They can work with their best friends, but really encourage your students in a flexible classroom to sit with their peers that they feel comfortable making mistakes with as they work on new concepts. So if you're thinking about making those mistakes, Do you feel comfortable doing that with your friend? Or do you have somebody else in the classroom who is still your friend, but maybe you could go 9 hours and not feel so left out of the loop? Work with those friends, work with those peers that you can make mistakes in front of and not feel crushed or devastated when you realize you were wrong or incorrect. So, flexible small groups are amazing for classrooms as well. So, the stress on this is collaboration. You don't want one student doing all of the work, which is no news to anybody here, I understand. But we want to make sure that each student in that group has a job. So, again, small group collaboration. We have our whole group. Everybody's collaborating together. The teachers may be a little bit more teacher directed that way. Small group, we have come together, we are collaborating together, and we are really working out those problems. Another one is individual. Individual can be used as an independent time. The students are discovering their own lesson that the teacher created in Presenter. I'm using Presenter currently. That is the cloud-based software that I am in. But what does it look like? Well, you're used to seeing those self-guided discoveries through web pages. Well, within Presenter, I can do something very similar to that. So as a student, I'm gonna select the eye and I'm going to get ready. So again, I'm doing this individually. I'm by myself on my Chromebook. I'm in Presenter. And my teacher is asking me, well, in her lesson or his lesson, it says, in the number 7,134, what place value is 4? Well, if I'm thinking about 4, and I know, it's got to be in the tens column. So I, as the student, select 10. Oh, try again. Oh man, I got that wrong. Well, then I'm just going to guess hundreds. But see what the teacher did here. It's not just, oh, try again, guess again. No, the teachers told them, no, the number 3 is actually in that place value. So the teacher has given them a task. Now they've guessed incorrectly, and now the teacher within this lesson has been able to explain why it was wrong. So let's say that they guess hundreds. No, good try. The 1 is in the 100s. Well, that leaves option B. Let's shoot for B, the ones. Correct. And it moves me on here and shows me all the numbers in there with the circle. Okay, well, I got that correct. Let's move on. Let's see what else. Number sense. Which number has 2 hundreds, 4 ones, 7 tens, and 6 thousands? Now, the teacher here purposely messed these numbers up because she really is trying to test them on that question. So now the students can either use the pen here in Presenter and start to say, okay, 200s. Well, here's my hundreds. I'm going to put a 2 here. 4 is in my ones column. So I'm going to put a 4 and start doing it that way. Or the student can say, okay, 200s. Oh, this one's got a 2 in the front. I know it's got to be this one. Oh, that was a good try, but maybe next time. So let's think about that. 4 ones. This is the only one with a 4 in it in the ones column. I'm going to try that one. Oh, well, it looks like I got it right here. So I know that I can move on to the next one. I'm going to go ahead and select the eye at the bottom. And I'm here at the flexible learning. So I have taken you through some of the different ways that you can make your classroom a little bit more flexible according to the way that the student learns. Again, you have your whole group, you have your individual group, you have your small group. Maybe your students learn as a collective whole with all of these. Maybe they need that individual time to kind of work out some of the kinks that they don't quite understand. They need a little extra practice, and then they can go into the small group and really shine with it amongst their peers. Like, hey, I figured it out. This is what it is, and teach their peers through examples. Or maybe it needs to be vice versa. Maybe they need to start out in that small group with a safety net of people helping them and working it out together. And then the student goes off and does something individually. Or maybe they just do better individually all around. Maybe they are somebody who does better with e-learning instead of being in an actual classroom. So each student is going to learn differently, and we need to make sure as educators that we are providing them with those types of opportunities. Oops, I apologize. Today, that will end our flexible classroom or our flexible environment. If you have any questions, please let me know. We have a chat box. I see somebody's from New Jersey. Hello there. And somebody else from Chicago. That's fantastic. Welcome, everybody. If you have questions or you have a comment, maybe you do something differently in your classrooms and you think, oh, I've got to share this. It works so wonderfully in my classroom. Please feel free to comment in that comment section and share out with your peers. It is so important as educators for us to share, but also that's how we as educators learn many times is gleaning from other people amongst us and around us. I will leave the chat open for a little bit longer. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at k.fin@elbglobal.com. I brought that page back up here in a moment so that we can have a closer look at it. But again, feel free to reach out and share. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or visit us at, follow us also on Instagram at Prowise USA.